Welcome along to the channel where we are going to veer slightly from our lane here, so apologies. This is not going to be an in the workshop video. This is a video inspired by a couple of things really. Our good friend Harry Metcalf has done some cracking videos recently and he's been touching on electric vehicles, how the interest is declining and the resale values and so on and so forth. He also did an amazing video with Jeremy Clarkson. I don't know why that name eluded me then. Talking about peak car, and it was a great video. I'll try and get a link up here to that, but it's a really good 40-minute video, well worth a watch. It's also inspired a little bit by conversations that we have with friends and family recently, and also a couple of people have seen in the background, I love this thing, and a couple of people have also asked, can we do a video on this? So because I love it, because we've got it, because we can, we're going to do a video on this. And we wanted to do a little bit more sort of, I don't know, we're not doing any body work on this yet. How do we make a video on it? Well, one of the things I'm asked all the time with this is, how can you afford to run that? And occasionally we get the, you're killing the planet. So I thought that's a good way to go into this video. Also off the back of, let's say, Harry's video on EVs and peak car and the pointless, needless, overwhelming amount of gizmos and gadgets which are now on cars. So to save Luke's hands and possibly your patience, I'm going to break this into 3 sections on this video. I'll put it into chapters as well. And we will go out, we'll do a road test with this and a living with kind of bit on this. So that will be in the chapter towards the end. But I think to start with, we're going to cover the costings. And honestly, how can I not afford to run this? A few videos back now, we mentioned that Michelle's Mini has died one too many times on us and we've replaced it. We've actually replaced it with a 20-year-old Audi, which is going really well. But in the process of doing that, we looked into the possibilities of, I mean, a lot of Michelle's driving is local driving. We've got this for any sort of long distance. So we thought we'll look at the whole electric vehicle thing. It's quite eye-watering really, and it led me back to, how can I not afford to run this as a daily car? I've got notes this time. We are always unscripted. We just try and do one take and go for it, but there's a lot of information here and I don't want to fluff it up. So I looked at a couple of things. So I'll get around to the costing on this, but to start with, we looked at the new Renault 5 electric, which is being hailed as a great little town commute kind of vehicle. Then we looked at the costings. So I know this isn't a like for like with a huge Escalade, but I'll get round to that as well because we looked at another vehicle. The Renault 5 electric, which is £26,000 on the road. If you're to do that on a PCP, that works out at needing to put down £5,761 of your own money on the table. And then after that, you're paying £212.49 per month for the next 4 years. So at the end of those 4 years, your monthly payment plus your deposit, you would have put down £15,937 just in ownership of the vehicle. Never mind cost of charging it and so on and so forth, or any degree of maintenance. So you put down nearly £16,000, and at the end of those 4 years, you either pay a lovely balloon payment of £10,337, so you can keep the car and claim it as your own, or you trade it in for another deal where you're going to be paying similar sorts of money, or you just give it back to them. And at the end of those 4 years, that £26,000 car that you've just paid £15,000 for, £16,000 for, up to that point, it's probably worth around 10. Now, to me, that makes no sense. That's just throwing money away. But we're not looking at small town cars, we're looking at a big barge. So I looked at a Range Rover, the British equivalent, sort of. On the road price, £90,310. I'd have to put a deposit down of £19,553, And then for the next 48 months, I'm paying £859 per month. As I say, before I put any fuel in it or do anything like that. And then at the end of those 48 months, if I want to keep it, I've got to find myself £41,589. Or give it back, and so on and so forth. So, say I took that leap and found £41,500, I would have spent £105,374 buying that vehicle, which in 4 years' time is apparently going to be worth about £40,000. So I've just thrown 60 grand away, and that's before I put fuel in it and things like that. Now, those two vehicles will come with 4 years, servicing and maintenance. You think, well, that's a headache out of the way. But what does that really cost, the service and the maintenance? So it then comes down to this. Now, we bought this in 2020. The world went into meltdown, shutdown, panic. Our kids were then 10 to 12 years old. My family's Italian, or Michelle's family's Italian. I've got my mother here. Home holidays, 7-seater, loads of boot space. We'll go for it. And we actually traded up from a Range Rover P38, but that's another story. So 5 years ago, this cost us £12,000. Done. Owned outright. And obviously I had to have that money to begin with, so we sold a vehicle we had at the time, the P38, sold another vehicle we had at the time, and raided the kiddies' rainy day fund. They didn't know that. So yeah, 12 grand, done, own it outright. That's 5 years ago. Now, in those 5 years, the only thing I've had to do on this, actually, is put a top hose on it. That's the only thing that's gone wrong, top hose burst. So 5 years, cost me nothing. Apart from wear and tear, we've put 2 tyres on it. Now, with either of these 2 other vehicles, there's going to be wear and tear. So you can't really bring that in and factor that into the costs. Servicing in that time. Now, those 2 other vehicles, your servicing would have been covered in your payments, whatever plan you got. This is a 6.2 litre V8, but it only holds 5 litres of engine oil. So, and I like to do that every year. It's got iridium spark plugs in it, which do 60,000 miles. So, over the past 5 years, I've done 5 oil filter changes. Genuine oil filter is 15 quid. The oil for the car, a good quality oil, is 60 quid. And an air filter is 15. And that's the servicing done. So I worked that out that I have spent about £320 in 5 years servicing this car. If I was paying someone else to do the work, it's an hour's labour, probably looking around £720 in servicing cost. So in 5 years, this would have cost me £12,720, and I own it. And if I chose to sell it right now, I'd get between £10,000 and £15,000 for the car. I've lost nothing, and I'm driving around in a £120,000 new, all singing, all dancing Cadillac Escalade. It makes no sense to me why this doesn't make sense to anyone else, really. Obviously, on top of that is fuel costings, which I think we'll cover that a little bit later on when we go out and do a road test on the car. Vehicle tax is the other thing. This is £430 a year vehicle road tax because it's a big American gas guzzler, but in the States, they're on it with their emissions. This is a really clean, burning internal combustion engine. So the vehicle tax on it is incredibly low. Lower, in fact, than the Audi that we've just bought, the 20-year-old Audi, to replace the Mini. So when people talk about going electric or running a modern car, I really struggle to see the cost financial sense in any of that. And most of the people, funnily enough, that say, how do you afford to run this, are normally people with a 2 or 3 year old family saloon car, a nondescript family saloon car, and they're paying way more than we're paying to have that relatively new car than we're paying for this. It's just one of those weird things. So cost-wise, this makes absolute perfect sense to me. It's a vehicle I own, it's not depreciating anymore, and I don't have to worry about a monthly payment. The monthly payments I would be paying on a modern vehicle, or a brand new vehicle rather, I double what I pay on fuel on this each month. We'll get back to that in a little while though. So that's the costing bit covered. Okay, the next part on this really is carbon footprint and the whole offsetting things with EVs and things like this. Now, I'm going to start by saying I'm not a climate change denier. I think that's something you can't really be. The climate is changing. You can't deny that. What I do struggle with though is where the bulk of the blame is attributed. And it does seem to be the forever easy pickings that are motorists in cars and internal combustion engines. And I think the way we're going about changing this, or trying to change it, the way we're forced to try and change it by governments, is madness. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever to me, and seemingly not to many, many other people, including car manufacturers, because even they are now backing out of the whole EV push forward. So it is crazy. And again, I'm going to refer to my pad here. We've got some bits I'll overlay, but this won't be a long section. I'm not going to get all soapbox and preachy about this because it really isn't what we do. But it is something that comes up a lot with this. Very little bit of research, and the carbon footprint and so on. Electric vehicles, 50% of their carbon footprint is generated in research, development and manufacturing, because you've got to mine for all these precious materials and so on for batteries, and there's a lot that goes in to making an electric vehicle which is really not green for the planet at all. So you've got this front-facing image. There's no gases coming out the back, therefore it's good for you, good for the environment, and it kind of ignores all the stuff that goes in the background. So, as I say, 57% in research and development and manufacturing, compared to approximately 10% with a standard internal combustion engine vehicle. We already have everything that we need to be able to do that. So I think that's a little bit of a sneaky smoke and mirrors kind of thing going on there. And also the lifespan. An EV battery, I think most manufacturers now are giving an 8-year or 100,000 mile warranty on these, which is in keeping with an internal combustion engine vehicle in terms of a warranty, but it's then the cost of fixing that. If something goes wrong with your electric battery, you're looking at 8 to 15 grand to get that done and replaced. Now, that's just on the battery. And yes, your engine could go bang, and that could potentially be a similar sort of bill, but it's also more likely to be a smaller individual component which is repairable and fixable. And I think that's the big thing for me with the environmental impact is my big old gas guzzler here did a lot of its damage in the research and development and manufacturing nearly 16 years ago. But it's also infinitely repairable. There is an obsolescence built in now to modern car manufacturing, which makes so many of the vehicles just a throwaway item. And how is that green? We operate next to an accident body repair shop here, and we see just how easy a modern vehicle is written off, thrown away, disposed of. It takes such little now to write a vehicle off on its value that we are a wasteful species anyway, but where's the green in that? And what I was referring back to with the PCP finance and things like that, every 3 years now people are changing their cars. What's green about that? For the people that do that, in the time I've had this, you've gone through nearly 2 cars. But because they're electric or whatever, you claim that that's the greener way to go than just keeping, fixing, maintaining. It's madness. The amount that we produce now in an attempt to be green is surely not very green. Again, a very brief sort of look into global emissions as a percentage. 57% of global emissions come from manufacturing and construction, which is all your building, heating, generating electricity to power your electric cars, and general manufacturing. You know, everyone nowadays has to have the latest smartphone, even though the one in their pocket is only 6 months old. The new version is out. I need that. So the commercialism and the drive to have everything new and the latest cutting point technology is actually way more damaging than my old dinosaur here. But again, that's so seldom taken into account. 10 to 13% of global emissions are attributed to all transport globally. And yet there is such a focus on getting petrol engines off the road and pushing for this electric thing, which really isn't going to make any difference, any notable difference. It's a society mindset, I think, which really needs to change, in this push to have everything new, everything cutting edge, high tech, modern, is way more damaging than a big old V8. During the pandemic, we noticed that yes, the air was indeed cleaner. It felt fresh, genuinely, it wasn't a placebo, everything felt better. Because there weren't millions of planes up in the sky, there weren't as many cars on the road, there weren't as many trucks and so on making needless, pointless journeys. There weren't politicians flying all around the world with their entourage in 6 jets and private planes and all the rest of it to attend a 2-hour summit to discuss what to do about the change in the climate. You know, it's madness. Again, if you look at all heads of state, they're driving around in big, heavy limousines and things like this. Lead from the front if that's really going to make a change. But they don't, because it won't. This isn't the problem. So I don't want to get boiled into all of that. So that's kind of it really as to where we were going with this, other than to actually look at the car itself, because we are a car channel. So we're going to wrap up now. A couple of guys are due in, so we can leave them running the workshop and we can go out in this and explain why I love this thing. It is used all the time, so I've made no effort for this video. It is filthy dirty and as used all the time, but I'll stop waffling about political, ecological, financial crap and we'll go for a drive in a car. Well, over many, many years of driving, I have owned and driven as daily vehicles many, many cars. And I think every single one of them I've had a love-hate relationship with. And that balance would vary, 80% love, 20% hate. The odd vehicle has been 5% love, 95% hate. This is the only vehicle I've ever owned which I have a love-indifference relationship with. At no point have I ever thought, I've got to get rid of this. I genuinely love it, and I can't see us getting rid of it. The only time I've had a degree of indifference is a rare occasion that it's not been used all the time and it sits there and I think it's a waste sitting there. And then I get in and I drive it and think, no, we'll keep this. It really is an awesome piece of kit, and I'm not going to gush over it. There are a couple of negatives which I will get to, but we'll start with the real basics. This is a 3rd generation Escalade. The Escalade came onto the market in 1998. 3rd generation came in 2007, and this is a 2010 model 3rd generation Escalade. Now, these things are so robust and good that even now the services in America still use them. Even 3rd generation. I mean, we're up to 5th generation now. And most of the Secret Service and presidential cars and police units are 4th generation. There are a few 3rds still out there. And it's, I mean, this is a Cadillac Escalade, but it shares so much with the sister car, which is the Chevrolet, the Chevy Suburban, the Tahoe, and the GMC. And the GMC use a Yukon as its name tag. 3rd generation was available with a 6-litre hybrid V8. This is the 6.2 all-petrol V8, mated to a 6-speed auto gearbox. Produces 403 horsepower and 417 pound-foot torque. There's very little that this won't pull, effortlessly. If only that was that easy to say. It's an incredible bit of kit. I really do love it, and I'll try not to keep repeating that, but it is. One of the things actually that a lot of people come up with straight away is the size of it. God, it's a tank, it's huge and all the rest of it. And I think the problem with that is, and it's been a problem for a long time now, is people see American car, therefore it's huge. I've got to navigate closed roads now. Yes, it is a big car, but no, it is not huge. I did a very quick bit of research, and at the moment in the UK, everywhere you turn is a Ford Ranger crew cab pickup or something similar to that. Now, I looked at the measurements on that. This huge American tank is 8 centimetres wider than a Ford Ranger. People don't bat an eyelid at a Ford Ranger, they're just everywhere, but it's 8 centimetres wider than a Ford Ranger. Okay, take that a step further, and I looked at a Hyundai Tucson, I think it is, a very middle of the road, average family saloon car now here in the UK, which is, and this, sorry, is 12 centimetres wider than an average family saloon car. I mean, it's a big car, but no, it's not a big, huge tank. It just, I think it just has that perception because it's American. And it really is a doddle to drive. I have been driving left-hand drive cars now for upwards of 20 years, so it doesn't bother me in the slightest. No offence, but if you can't drive a left-hand drive car, I have to question whether you should be driving at all. When you're driving a car, know the width of your vehicle. It doesn't matter which side of it you're sitting, the width is exactly the same. There is no challenge in driving a left-hand drive vehicle in the UK whatsoever, with the exception of overtaking a vehicle that's in front of you and bigger than you, so you can't see around it. And for those of you that love a drive-through, they're not great for drive-throughs. Apart from that, as a daily driver, it is so easy. The size isn't an issue, just know the size of your vehicle and away you go. Now, I started the video by saying that Jeremy Clarkson and Harry Metcalf had a discussion on peak car, and they kind of decided 2010 to 2015 was kind of peak car, where you had enough tech for the car to be very comfortable and user-friendly, but it wasn't swamped with so many. I mean, they talked about a BMW that took 10 minutes to set up all the different driving preferences before you could go anywhere. Now, this has tech on it, but it has relevant usable tech, much of which will be old school now. You know, people won't even view it as tech. I'm trying to think of the techie stuff now. But I mean, being an Escalade, we've got TVs all the way through. There's 3 TVs in the car. So there's one up front, one in the middle, and one at the back. They drop down from the screens above. I know that's not exactly tech nowadays. You could go to Halfords and buy one clip on the back of the headrest, but it's got a full surround sound cinema system by Bose, which is an awesome bit of kit in this. We've got, which is a big thing for me actually, because as some of you know, I have issues with my knees. I've also got problems with my back, but I've got 3-way heated seats, as in 3 temperature levels on the seat base and the seat back, all of which are independently controlled. And I've also got seat chillers, and we've also got a ton of traffic. I'm going the wrong way here. Let's try and find a better route. There we go. We do have blind spot. Oh, Lou, where am I going, mate? We have blind spot mirrors, so it pings up if it senses anything coming into my blind spot, of which there are very few in this car. There's plenty of glass area. We've got a reversing camera that cuts in. We have parking sensors, which at the minute don't work. It's one of the very few things that don't work. We have power fold mirrors, cruise control, you know, all the standard stuff. But it works, and it works really well, constantly, with the exception of the parking sensors. We've got some flooding down here. But it's all usable tech. This does have what's called a Z95 package on it, so it's got fancy dampers on the front of it, which are directly out of the Corvette. They're Magna Ride, and they are adjusting so many times per millisecond to the road. But that's as high-tech as that gets, really. They are just fancy dampers. You don't have programmable ride heights or sport modes or anything like that. Even the gearbox is into drive and drive. There are no sport options or comfort settings or anything like that. It's just loads of power, loads of torque, put it in drive and go. And at this busy roundabout, oh no, we've got a nice break here. So it is just point and drive, but it drives really, really well. It's a 2.5 ton tank with Corvette suspension and the Corvette derived 6.2 litre V8 in it, which doesn't make it a Corvette. Little fiberglass sports car against a 7-seater, 2.5 ton tank, you know, but you'd be amazed how well this drives and handles. And you can throw it about if you want to, or just a very relaxed cruising car. It's so versatile. It is quite unbelievable. I'll try and get some footage. I think we'll roll over the back. But in terms of versatility, the middle row seats electrically fold forward and out of the way. The third row seats lift out incredibly easy and turn this into, sadly, actually, a panel van. The pickup truck's off the road at the minute having the gearbox repaired, which I think I've covered in a previous video. So this has actually been turned into, sadly, as I say, a van. We've had to carry some big Cadillac, funnily enough, 1921 Cadillac, 4 wings, 2 running boards. We've had to take those over to the blasters, get them blasted, bring them back again. And it's cavernous back there. It just swallows all kinds of payload. It's a fantastically versatile vehicle. And then a couple of little motions and it's back to being a 7-seater, leather-clad luxury form of transport. Very docile, as you can see, going around town here. Put your foot down though, and it's probably quicker than it needs to be. The 0 to 60 book time is 6.6 seconds. And I won't lie and say I've never tested it, but I've never timed it. But it really is quite a rapid machine, which you never know. As we're ambling around here, we might find an opportunity to show you that. But it handles so nicely. I love it. What can I say? I do love it. Fuel-wise. Now this is something that a lot of people, oh, gas guzzler and all the rest of it. And obviously we covered that a little bit earlier on in the video. Now, on my trip meter here, right now, and I've been using this every day now since my knee operation 2 months ago. I don't know if you can see from back there, Lou, but on the average economy right now, we are showing 14.3 miles per gallon average. Now, that's normally closer to 15, but at the minute, well, for the past 2 weeks, we live on quite a busy road outside of town, and there's yet another housing estate being built, and they've dug up all the roads. So every evening for the past 2 weeks, I have sat in huge tailbacks just trying to get to my house. So that's not done my average fuel consumption much good. We usually sit around about 15 miles to the gallon in town driving like this. Now, to break that down into everyday use, I generally spend about £140 a month putting fuel in here, and that does my daily commute to and from work 6 days a week. We live about 6 miles outside of town. It does all my social journeys, which, given I have 1 day a week, admittedly is not huge amounts, but we do go out. Visiting family, we go out and do things like normal people would do. And it covers work use as well. As I say, we had to take this over to the blasters, load it up with parts. So it gets plenty of use, and I put about £140 a month of fuel into the car. Which again, if you go back to the beginning of the video, I'd be spending more than that on a monthly payment for something that's apparently green and economical. I don't see that it's that economical when I'm spending less on fuel per month than I would be in just the repayments on the hire purchase. So How do I afford to run this? Quite simply, because I own it. That's how I afford to run it. And I struggle to see how I would get this kind of equipment level, comfort, and enjoyment out of something that I was paying a lot more for on a monthly basis. Again, we covered this a little bit when we talked about the Impala, but the cost of parts and ease of parts is phenomenal. This is only, in the 5 years we've owned it, it's only been off the road once, as I say, due to a blown top radiator hose, but I have spent money on the car through want rather than necessity. The rear suspension has got air assist on it, so it's not an air suspension system, but if you're loaded up with 7 people and all their luggage in the back, or if you're towing, which this is an awesome tow vehicle, if you're loaded up in the back, there is an air assist pump that just load levels the car. Now, the pump has never failed, but it did get incredibly noisy to the point it was quite embarrassing. And a genuine GM air suspension pump was 320 odd pounds from the States. And I say genuine GM, you could get cheaper ones, aftermarket ones, but the genuine product, 320 odd pounds, delivered within 2 days. Air freight wasn't very expensive. I seem to recall it was 40, 50 pounds and a little bit of import duty. The whole thing came in at under 450 pounds. Whereas if this was, say, a BMW, again, I know you can get aftermarket stuff or you can get reconditioned parts, but if you were to buy a genuine BMW air suspension pump, you're looking at over £1,000. And you'd probably have to wait a week for it to come in from Germany or something like that. So the parts on it are super affordable and cheap. They built thousands of these out in the States. And as it shares so much with the Chevy Suburban and the GMC Yukon, the bits are plentiful and affordable. We have rebuilt the front suspension on this. Again, not really through necessity, but it did fail a top ball joint, I think it is, for one MOT. There's a bit of play in that, but it's a 15, nearly 16-year-old car with 90,000 miles on the clock, and it's big and heavy. It's to be expected. And the ball joints are part of the top suspension arm. And again, I looked into the costings, and both suspension arms with ball joints and bushes were ridiculously cheap. I thought, well, while I'm there, I might as well do the bottom as well. All of the parts came in under, I can't remember the exact figures without going back and hunting through, but it was around £150 for all the parts, plus a little bit of shipping. And I've now got a fully rebuilt suspension. It's just so cheap and easy. Again, as I said earlier, how can I afford not to? It's a wonderful piece of kit. Now, I've just been waffling and not really paying too much attention to where I'm going. And I've brought this to a point where it's very difficult to sort of showcase any kind of performance. But whilst I drive around trying to find that, I will cover the bits which are not so great to try and give a balanced review. It's sitting on 22-inch rims. They are factory 22-inch rims, and they look great. They fill the wheel arch really nicely. But around the lousy roads of Britain, it is quite a crashy ride because it's such a low-profile tyre. These could come with a 19 and a 20-inch rim, and I think ideally I'd go for the 20-inch rim just to give a little bit more of a cushion, because these roads are just filled with potholes and they're horrible. You end up driving like a drunk. We did take this on a little tour of Wales a few years back, and the Welsh roads were fantastic, and it really was a magic carpet ride. It's not a big crashy truck, but on 22-inch rims you feel all these bloody horrible potholes. So that's a little bit of a niggle, but it's not really the car's fault. Partly down to age now. This is built onto a chassis, and as we go over these bumps, there is a little bit of flex within the body, which means that the door rubbers squeak quite a bit on the rubbers, which is quite annoying. That kind of stuff really bugs me. Of all the tech that we have on board, it does have sat-nav. Unfortunately, I won't explain my reasonings why, or my theory on why. Cadillac, or General Motors more to the point, they only have North America programming on the sat-nav, and there is nothing we can do to update that. So the sat-nav system is, turn the radio down, is locked entirely into North American destinations only. So we've got a wonderful touchscreen sat-nav system here that we can't use and we can't update or upgrade. That's annoying. I'm trying to think really, genuinely, what else irritates me about the car. And there really isn't much. I had to change a headlamp bulb. That was a nightmare, and I had to take the washer bottle out to change a headlamp bulb. Apart from that, servicing, maintaining, using this, it really is a pleasure. It's incredibly comfortable on long journeys. It's what it was built for. How can you not? How can I'm running out of words, as you can probably tell. It's a pleasure to own and drive, and I can't see me parting company with it anytime soon. They do come in two different lengths. We talked about the width of the car. What we've got here is the ESV version, which is 20 inches longer than the standard body. And we specifically looked for that because the standard body is still a 7/8 seater, but the extra 20 inches you get is in the boot. And when we looked at a regular sized one, it didn't make much sense that we've got this big 7-seater, but if we were to have 7 people on board going somewhere, we've got nowhere to put 7 people's worth of luggage. So the ESV gives you all the extra room in the boot, which is a real godsend, and again helps with general load carrying. And it took a little bit of finding, because here in the UK there's a load of Escalades that have come in from Japan. There's various importers that bring them in, and we did look at a couple, and they've all been blinged up. They've all got stupid large back boxes on them. They've had all this cut out to put some high-tech, all singing, all dancing strobe light control panel in there. Most of them are on like 26-inch rims, which just seems ridiculous, and just generally played around with. So we did take a bit of searching to find this car. It's a 2010 model, came into the UK in 2011, was bought in from the States by a doctor, and it is absolutely bog standard spec, which is exactly what we were looking for. I'm kind of heading to the end now, really, of what I wanted to get across with this, and I'm just going to head down to somewhere that we can show you maybe a little bit of the performance. I can't get too excitable with it. We are on public roads after all. Top speed on this is going to be about 150. It is limited, and it's got the aerodynamics of a brick. So the more you use it, the more fuel she will drink. But I said at the beginning that we haven't done any paintwork on this, and since we bought it, or the day we bought it, there's a couple of panels I wanted to get painted. We've never got round there. We might do one day, but in the time that we've owned it, someone's driven in the back of it and hit the bumper outside of a school and then driven off, and that's been like that for about 3 years now. I must get round to doing that. We have a tiny bit of corrosion just coming up on the back quarter panel, and where I have to park this at home, it just touches into the bushes if we don't trim the bushes back, and that's faded the front corner of the bumper. So as I said, and as I think you've got the point, I do love this thing and I want to keep on top of it, and the plan is, if I can try and engineer a week or 2 in the new year just to have this off the road, de-trim it and take care of these odd little bits and pieces and give it a full uniform coat of colour, Noble for Classic Car CSR, I'll hand it to the boys at Empire to ceramic guard it, just to keep everything in tip-top shape, because it really is well worth it. It's a lovely thing. Oh, one thing I love. It's like a table, this thing. It's a 2-tier glove box. My boys always love the Avengers films, and in one of them, Samuel L. Jackson's got a GMC Yukon, and a machine gun comes up out of here and blasts away, and you think, oh, ridiculous. I'm telling you, this 2-tier box is absolutely cavernous. You probably could get a machine gun come up and out of there, and it just makes for a real nice, comfortable thing to be in. So we're coming up onto the bypass now, so I might throw Luke back in the chair in a minute and give you an idea of the acceleration capabilities and the ease of it. And here we go, Lou. Of course, someone pulled out in front of me. Oh. You can see why these are used in the States with Secret Service and presidential cars and things like that. They really do have some get up and go. I mean, we're not trying, we're at 60 mile an hour. I know he's pulling away, I'm letting him do that, honest. But there are very few other vehicles that you could get 7 people in and have this degree of urgency. I've got to mind the speed though, because we are being filmed, or we are filming. We're currently on the national speed limit, so I'll keep it there. But I mean, there is so much more eagerness. And that's probably actually one of the hardest parts of driving this, is you don't really get a sense of the speed. It is very easy to be comfortably exceeding the speed limit because there is just so much effortless power. As there are, don't get me wrong, in many, many other cars, but smaller cars. This is a big 7-seater that can and has embarrassed much sportier, smaller vehicles. A lot of people don't really appreciate or expect something like this to move the way it does. The comparison earlier on was with a Range Rover, and again, yeah, the Range Rovers are quick and the supercharged versions are really quick, but it's significantly a smaller vehicle than this. They are only a 5-seater with a small luggage area in the back. They're not a big people carrier like this is. It's incredibly sprightly, but can also handle well and has a great stopping power as well. So I think we'll probably call time on that then, Lou. And stop at 70. And yeah, why wouldn't you own one of these? Thanks for watching. I know this is out of our usual lane. If you don't like it, I fully understand and appreciate that. We're satisfying the algorithm, and a few people have asked, what about the Cadillac Escalade? But we'll be back in the workshop next week for some more painting of classic cars. Thanks for watching, hit subscribe, we'll see you next week. Okay, I've got back and edited the video and feel like a bit of an idiot because I missed 2 fairly important things which tie in with the environmental aspect and the economy aspect. 2 features the car has which I totally bypassed and forgot to mention. It's fitted with DFM, Dynamic Fuel Management. So at motorway speeds, cruising speeds, there's a clever pressure switch sensor within the engine, and it cuts 4 cylinders. So we're effectively running a V4 at cruising speed. So that really does help with the economy. And it's instantaneous. You don't feel it drop off. And the minute you put your foot on the throttle, it cuts back in again. And it's seamless. Wonderful, wonderful system. So that helps with the economy and indeed the emissions. It's also got what's called flexi fuel, or designed with something called flexi fuel, which in the States means you can run it on E85. Now over here in the UK, we have E5 and E10, so that's 5 or 10% ethanol. E85, you guessed it, is 85% ethanol. Now obviously we've never run that over here because it's not available over here. But seeing the damage 10% ethanol causes to fuel lines and injection systems, I'm not too sure would want to be running that. But it is designed in whatever way to be running on that. So I feel a little more comforted in using E10 as opposed to E5 on the rare occasion. So that's it. That really is now the end of the video, and we'll catch you next week for some more painting classic cars.